Hello, friends. Welcome back to another off the cuff ramble, and this time a live stream with my good friend Brian Chin, who is joining us all the way from North America. So, Santa Barbara, is that right? Like you're based in Santa Barbara, is that right, Brian? Great to see you. I think we might have a bit of a lag on this side, so I apologize in advance. It might be a
Yeah,
little
that's
bit
right.
laggy.
Yeah, I'm based out here in the west coast of the United States, posted up in Santa Barbara, about 5 minutes from the ocean, so can't complain too much. And just preparing my house, about to have a little baby in a couple of weeks. So between that and managing my FPL team, I got my hands full. So looking forward to catching up with you, and especially after meeting you in person in lovely Sydney a couple of months ago. Really excited to be on the
Yeah.
show for a live stream.
That's fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much, Brian. Honestly, I really do appreciate it. I know how busy you are, and as you mentioned, you've got a little one on the way as well. So, yeah, congratulations to you guys as well. But also, I love your podcast, and of course, whilst we caught up last year, I think it was around end of October or something, that we caught up while you were here in Sydney, and I've got a a photo and stuff to share as well, so everyone can get to know you a little bit as well. But you are now the third. Whilst we recorded a video together and managed to do a bit of a Q&A for my channel last year, it's so nice to have you properly on the show as a guest so that we can have a look at our game week 34 that's coming up over the next couple of days, but also have a look at our free hit drafts as well. So it's a really critical one, but I feel really confident because you are sitting in the top 1K right now, or top
Woo!
750 in the world, which is pretty awesome. I think when we sort of bring it down to exactly where you are, you're doing phenomenally. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about that. So yeah, I'm just going to say a bit of a shout out to everyone in the chat as well before we get sort of cracking. So as mentioned, we've got Brian here from the FPL, is it FPL USA Press Play podcast? I always like jumble up the.
It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful.
And as I mentioned, it's one of my favorite podcasts. So yeah,
Yeah,
really,
sometimes we
really
just go
great to
as
have you
the
on.
the press play podcast.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So massive shout out to everyone that's in the chat as well. So we've got Joseph in the chat. Great to see you. Amara, yeah, lovely to see you. And yeah, hi Brian, from some of our guests that have joined. It is a bit of an awkward hour because obviously
Ahoy!
we have we're streaming at a slightly different time. So for me over here in Australia, I've just had breakfast. It's 8 a.m. or 10 past 8, and I've got my coffee mug this time. So this is my Fantasy Premier League coffee mug that I've got. That was sent to me by
Very
FPL.
nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. It almost got thrown out actually because I've got my mum here in Australia at the moment, and I was getting her to do a bit of decluttering. And so she looked at this mug and she was like, "Oh, you probably don't need this one." I was like, "No, no, no, that's the first one that will go up on the shelf." But yeah, thank you to everyone that is in the chat, though.
Yeah, I'm
Really
on
do
my second
appreciate it.
coffee of the day, so
Yeah. So with the time zone thing, so obviously you're West Coast of America, so it's about what 3 something p.m. for you. It's 8 a.m. ish over here. UK is probably just gone 11 p.m. also. And I'm really sorry for all of our Indian friends who are in the, sort of in between subcontinent. That's going to be a bit of a challenge, but great to have everyone in the chat nonetheless, and to everyone that's going to be hopefully watching this afterwards as well. So today's chat pretty much is going to be getting to know Brian. Brian's having a great season, getting to know how he's been playing, all of that. But also, we're going to be discussing free hit, and both Brian and I are on free hit as well. So yeah, we'll specifically go through free hit. We may touch on a couple of picks that, if you're not on a free hit, what sort of picks should you be considering, just in case you want to what you've got 5 transfers somehow. Incredible if you do have, or how many other transfers you have. We'll try our best to give you a couple of picks there that you can go with as well. So Brian, I've got a bunch of questions as we go for you as well. So yeah,
I've
so
got answers.
Amazing, amazing. So obviously, Brian and I met last year. If you've been following both of us, yeah, we've been having lots of interactions on the interwebs and on socials, and yeah, it was really nice to meet you in person. And the first of, the Press Play podcast that I've met in person as well. So yeah, such a pleasure to have you here. Tell us a little about yourself, and what kind of FPL manager you are, and how long you've been playing.
Yeah, I've been playing for about 8 years, and about five of those like pretty competitively. I think it took me maybe a few extra years to enter the Twitterverse and just learn more about what other managers are thinking and start to really take on effective ownership and captaincy with a little bit more of a fine kind of outlook. So yeah, right now I'm having my best season ever, which is awesome because I'm absolutely addicted to FPL. I talk with a lot of different folks here in the hashtag FPL USA community, and we give a great handshake to the hashtag FPL AUS community, the Aussies. So I have a fond place in my heart for all of those Aussies down under. I've lived in Sydney from 2015 to
Yes.
2019 and was just back again having a great Surrey Hills breakfast with Meera in kind of late October, November. So I think at that time, Meera, you were really crushing me in overall rank. So I was just trying to catch up, and thankfully things have really gone my way, having a great season. I'm ranked 711th in the world, following a string of green arrows. When you're having a great season, I think I've had 7 or 8 red arrows the whole season. So very much the season to remember. And right now, my team name is Son of Destiny. Sonny Boy, one of my favorite EPL players, even though he plays for Tottenham. Got to represent my Asian brotherhood there. And yeah, so just talking FPL all the time. Got some great crew here in a lot of group chats. And then on the Press Play podcast with my buddy Bucks and at FPL Black Wolf, aka Dan. So big shout out to those guys. Those are part of my inner circle, and they've been cheering me on this season.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. And yeah, it's such a good point. Like last year, this season, I've had a steady season. It's really weird. Like I think I hit 10,000 to 20,000 quite early, and then I've just stayed in that kind of region. But I'm kind of glad for it as well. But yeah, you're right. Like I think you were chasing then, and now I'm like, there's no way I'm going to catch up with you. So would you say your style of play as an FPL manager has changed since you started playing, and how you've been playing this season?
You know, it's funny. I had my worst season ever last year at 420K overall. And I think I threw in the towel quite early last season. Probably maybe a third of the way through the season, I was already doing a lot of aggressive hits, minus fours, captaining Odegaard multiple times, skipping double Arsenal defense, and just playing a little bit kind of aggressively, but in the wrong kind of manner. So I think that was something where I took a lot of learnings from. I have never been in the top 10K, so I had that elusive season while I was living in Sydney, placed 11,000 in the world or so. So yeah, so generally like a few decent performances, but nothing that was going to really catapult me into the elite stratosphere. But this season, especially with the podcast and really trusting my inner circle, that's been really helpful. But I've absolutely loved the new gameplay changes this year from FPL Towers. The stacking of 5 free transfers and just practicing patience with your long-term picks has really, really shot me up the rankings. And then just a lot of luck too. Like I've gotten a ton of Cunha points when I dropped Holland in like game week 8 or 9 for Cunha. Cunha's gone off. I had Wood for all of his hauls, Bumo for basically 90% of the season. So those kind of meat and potato picks have really
Yeah.
delivered results. And having Holland off the menu just allowed me to go and spread the funds for a few other picks that, if they're on multiple avenues to get points, I just really held on to those guys for quite some time.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, though, the 2 hits that I've taken this season have both been for Bruno Fernandes in and Bruno Fernandes out.
Oh
And
my
so that's
gosh.
been when I'm looking back at some of my rare hits this season.
Yeah.
It's been around Bruno. I think when he got at the red card, I just immediately ripped him out. I'm like, I don't care how well
Yeah.
I'm doing. I can't have this guy in my team another minute longer. But then I brought him in for game week 29, and he got that 17-point hat trick
Yeah.
versus Leicester,
Yeah.
or whatever, that double triple return versus Leicester, and all is forgiven, Bruno. So yeah, I'm definitely from a style perspective, like I get up at 4:30 every
Oh
Saturday
my
morning and I
gosh.
watch the games. So
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
that's like I love watching the games and just being in the Discord or with other people on WhatsApp, just bantering about all the shenanigans and the near misses and the differential hauls. But with the time change, yeah, it's pretty brutal. So I get up quite early. So I'm hoping that
Yeah.
early morning Premier League watch along type of thing will help me when this baby comes in a few weeks, and I'll be up and able to catch a few matches as well. But yeah, I'm definitely a eye test manager, and then I kind of go and look at some of the EO and then like some of the advanced stats, but very
Nice.
much like an eye test manager. And so
Yeah.
I think that's also why I've had like some good seasons and then a few like really bad seasons. And I
Mm.
think that plays a factor. Sometimes your eyes can lie to you, and then
Yeah, that's it.
you'll place outside the 100K.
And that's such a challenge, right? Because, like, you touched on a couple of things that are a huge kind of problem, for me as an FPL manager in Australia, where the matches are on at like stupid o'clock, and it is really challenging. So whilst the deadline is at a decent sort of hour most of the time, we get the Saturday night sort of deadlines. It's such a challenge when you want to do the eye testing and you want to watch the matches. I always find it really difficult to catch the score, like the final score, and then go back and watch the highlights. Like I'll still watch the highlights. I'll try and watch about 45 minutes, 25 minutes, something like that, depending on how interested I am in the game. But it's really interesting what you mentioned about some of the what did you call it? Meat and potatoes. I love how like every country has its own sort of version of that. So fish and chips picks from
Yeah, yeah.
anyone in the UK. For us over here,
I'm
I'm not sure what it would be. It would be what, a chicken schnitzel or something like that over here. The basic pick, or meat and potatoes as well,
yeah, I'm
maybe.
Yeah, I'm half German. I grew up in the Midwest, so meat and potatoes is like a big regional thing for the Midwest part of the states, where it's cold and you
Mm,
just need a very warm, nourishing meal coming in from the snowfall. So, meat and potatoes guy, like Chris Wood, nothing flashy, but gets the job done,
yeah.
always consistent. And so, a few of those picks really drove me up the rankings this season.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to ask you a question about, any bold moves that you made other than the Bruno one. Has there been any players that you've brought in or taken out? Like, yeah, I'm not sure if Bruno counts in that, just because, he's not been highly owned or anything like that. But any bold moves that you've made?
Yeah, it's funny. I've really just had like really consistent scores throughout the whole season. Like I haven't had any ones where I'm like, oh, I'm the top, you know, 5% of all scores. I've really just been consistently in the top 25% of kind of
Mm,
those game week scores all season. And getting guys with penalties, that's been huge. And just continually to really, I think my captaincy, I know in like one of my main mini leagues where I got like 60 people, I'm number one in captaincy points. So I think that's something I would point to. I've gone against Salah at the right times. I
mm,
caught like Saka's 16-pointer earlier in the season and captained him. So
yeah.
I've been on the right side of a few coin flips as well. And
Mm,
so yeah, I think that's really definitely helped buoy me up this season. But I've definitely rolled my free transfers to 3, 4, and 5 multiple times in the
yeah,
season.
that's
And then
impressive.
for instance, in game week 29, I used 4 free transfers instead of a free hit, was able to navigate that pretty well and, outscore the average by quite a bit in that game week. But right now, I got KDB in my team. He's one of the bigger punts for the run-in. One last dance with good old Kev. Oh, I love him.
Oh,
Him and his sexy
yeah.
ginger hair. It warms my heart for one last dance. And honestly, there's another player this week who might be my
Yeah.
free hit, might be the last dance with TAA, your boy. Trent
Yeah,
might
I
be
know.
leaving, so he might
I
be
know.
in my squad for the last time on this free hit.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? And then, I woke up to the news about Vardy as well. And whilst we're not really thinking about Vardy, I started thinking about, will Vardy score a goal against, Wolves now? But yeah, TAA, look, I'm
Yep,
really sad
yep.
about Trent leaving, but at the same time, I think it was a miracle that he stayed this season. So yeah, whilst he's had some time out as well, he's such a great player though. He really is. And, whilst I'm sad about him leaving, I'm actually, yeah, happy for him as well. So yeah, it's a bit bittersweet. It's a weird one. Like we're on the cusp of winning the Premier League, and so having your the local lad who's grown up, yeah, in the club, it's really sad. So yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's not really
Oh,
it's not
Trent.
sunk in. It's not sunk in for me just yet.
Yeah, totally understand. I'm just upset that he's going to go play for Real Madrid. Those frauds. I'm a anti Real Madrid kind of hater,
Yeah.
just because I do like to play some EAFC or FIFA as they used to call it, and every single person and their mothers plays with Real Madrid. It's hard. 95% of teams play with Mbappe and Bellingham
Yeah.
and Vinny J, and now you're going to add in Trent to that lineup. So the
Mm,
video game gamification of Real Madrid makes me hate them quite a
yeah.
bit. So
Yeah.
that's when you'll find me picking up a coffee mug and throwing it through a window from time to time,
Yeah.
playing FIFA.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got one last question before, I get you to tell us a little bit about the podcast as well. So my last question to you before we move on is around how you manage the highs and lows. And I love how you just mentioned that you're just throwing throwing whatever you can around. But do you have moments where you get super frustrated with your FPL team, especially like you're doing so well this season? Have you had, those highs and lows, and what of those highs and lows? How do you manage that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every FPL manager goes through those ebbs and flows, and I think, especially since I experimented so much last year,
Mm,
basically spent 20 plus game weeks experimenting with my side.
yeah.
I just took down some notes to just really figure out, where are some points that I could pinpoint during the season
Mm,
and figure out like maybe my thought process was completely incorrect there. Maybe it wasn't time to take a punt and go against EO when somebody's going to be 180% owned. And so figuring out those moments in time
mm,
has definitely been important to kind of keeping my head level. But um, yeah, I think this season I really enjoyed the pricing structure that went into game week one. And so I think just overall, like the pricing was so much stronger than last year. And then on top of that, you also had the additional transfer rules and stacking them up to five. So all of those things have really come into my thinking and just being, there's 38 game weeks. It's you're sprinting a marathon for FPL, but
yeah.
just putting down the phone sometimes and just like, all right, I don't need to go, really hate watch the last 15 minutes of this Nottingham Forest match, hoping they concede in the last 5 minutes because I have no NFO defenders. And that's a funny point about my season. I've had no Nottingham Forest defense the whole season, and I'm still ranked in the
Whoa.
top 1K.
I've
So
had
very,
double.
very fortunate and lucky. Yeah, very, very lucky. There's so many different ways to score points in FPL, and I think that's also something like when you're trying to rage transfer somebody out, just think about, not what this person has done in the last
Yeah.
couple of games, but what is their outlook for the games to come. Positioning, expected minutes
Nice.
is, I think, a big one. So I try and especially this season, I've just also been busy, just like bought a house for the first
Yeah.
time, having a kid.
Oh.
So I've been able to like separate myself a little bit. Like I'll still tune into a few of my favorite FPL shows like yours, and I
Mm,
love the FPL Wire and Hearing Press and some of those other folks across the community. But if you're having a rough season or a rough game week, just, you know, just cut yourself off off of it until the next deadline. And making decisions the night before, if you can, is most helpful. So I've ignored a lot of price changes from
Yeah.
time to time. But I will say, again, this is just macro for me, some of the things I've been writing down. I've also gained a lot of team value. I think I'm almost close to 107 million in team
Yeah,
value this season because I've
super
gone
high.
like a week early. Yeah, I've gone like a game week early for an asset multiple times that I think could, do really well in their upcoming run. But I went a week early and I've been rewarded multiple times. Very fortunate with the Cunha points, like I said before.
Mm,
But I've built a lot of team value. Brought Marmouchian much earlier than a lot of other people did. So I've gained a lot of kind of 5, 10 points here and there on the field, and then those players have just gone up and skyrocketed in price. So a bit lucky there, but I have been doing that more often when I think it's a player that I'm going to hold for the long term,
yeah.
and then try and match up those fixtures.
Love it, love it, and all the good things like in terms of advice and yeah, it's really tough. I have to agree with you. Like with the just stepping away from it. I think I was having a chat with Gary from Have a Beer FPL or FPL Have a Beer, and it was a really long one for us this week. And yeah, I'm not sure how he's going to be editing that. It was just a good conversation. It was quite late over here, but we talked a little bit about mental health, and we talked about the grieving process that I'm going through at the moment after losing my father, and it's been really challenging. And so like for me, FPL was a nice sort of, constant there in the background. And it was nice to just be playing this game, but not get overly sort of invested in it in the same sort of way that I had been, before that happened. And so, yeah, it's been really tough. But, like you say, you just got to like find perspective, step away, just, yeah, look at things from a different point of view. It's really difficult to do that. And so for me, it was a bit of an outlet and, a bit of a distraction. And I think my goal was just to maintain a decent rank as much as possible, not overthink anything. And yeah, so not too
I
much
mean, you're
damage, not
still
chase.
you're still flying this season.
Oh, it's just been a roller coaster the last couple of game weeks. I've been hurt brutally, yeah, and we'll touch on that in just a moment. But Brian, before we get cracking with how our game week 33 went as well, we'll touch on that ever so slightly before jumping into our free hit drafts for game week 34 and what our thinking is, and we'll look at a little bit of data as well to support that. Just want to give a massive shout out to everyone that's watching at whatever time it is for you. So, good morning, afternoon, evening to wherever you're watching from. I really do appreciate you being here. Please do hit like and hit subscribe. If this is, you joining for the first time, it's great to have you. It's very rambly, not too heavy on the stats. Sometimes I have brilliant guests like Brian on the show, and other times I'm just rambling quite solo. So, so please do hit like and subscribe as well. So just a quick sort of shameless plug in there. But Brian, tell us about your wonderful podcast, which
Of course.
I continued to listen to whilst being on a hiatus for 4 months.
Yeah, I think like yourself, just love chatting with the community about FPL. And when you are in a position where you have a few close mates that also love the game as much as you, kind of just bringing your group chat to the airwaves, and then sharing some hot takes. And my buddy John Bucksbaum out in New York. We've known each other for quite some time and just started our kind of coast to coast podcast. And then just about 2 years ago, we brought into the fold Dan, aka FPL_Black Wolf. He's very well known in the community, and it's been great to see Wolves on such a tear the last 5, 6 matches, especially since they changed managers. But yeah, mostly banter, recap some of the happenings around the Premier League. We're just starting to try and figure out a little bit of the YouTube, but right now it's just mostly our faces and our voices now. But yeah, I think it's definitely something for the other regions outside of England. As you know, like there are a great number of managers who play FPL around the world, and so being part of the hashtag FPL USA community has been great. And Dan runs some leagues there, and then a bunch of meetups and stuff. The US is just huge, right? There's 350 million people. There's bound to be a few FPL managers
Just a
walking
few.
around. So yeah, just bringing that voice. Yeah, bringing that voice. And then ahead of the World Cup as well, we saw a huge number of managers join the FPL game before the last World Cup. So we're really,
Yeah.
hoping to capitalize on that momentum as well and highlighting some of the voices across the community. But overall, trying to grow that audience a bit in the U.S. But we definitely have all sorts of talented folks on, like yourself and some other folks across the seas to join us too.
Love it. Yeah, and I really enjoyed coming on your show as well. There was like just a really good crossover between all of us over here in Australia, and we've got a big community over here as well. And whilst we don't have as many millions of people that you guys have, I think we're only about less than 25 million people. And, those that follow football are going around calling it soccer as well. So, it's a nice bunch over here, and the community, very much loves.
Well, you're the Socceroos, you're the
Yeah, well,
Socceroos in Australia, so it's
yeah, I really
upside
struggle.
down there.
I struggle to call it soccer, and that's just look. I'm from the UK, so I don't think I'll ever get around calling it that. But the community over here in Australia absolutely loves interacting with the community in the States as well. So yeah, love it. And in your latest show as well, your latest podcast, thank you for the shout out and the sympathies for going Asensio in the previous game week. Much appreciated.
Oh, that was so painful to watch in real time because I know over the last month since you've come back to Australia, just like dropped in your DMs a few times and just talking about chip talk and all that, and to be in a spot where your Uber differential misses two pens while on bench boost, that could have been an additional 15 plus points, 14 plus points. Like
Oh,
it doesn't compute. It does not compute. And then of course does nothing this game week either. So very,
I
very
was
unlucky.
I was very angry, but also very, how shall I put it? I was angry, but also laughing so hard as well, watching back that match. Well, aspects of that match anyway, the highlights of it. But anyway, we will swiftly move on. Brian, thank you for sharing some of your FPL journey and all of that with us. But while you're sort of talking about I guess your game week. Tell us. We won't spend, like I said, too long on our game week 33. Personally, I don't want to because I had a terrible game week 33. But feel free to just talk us through how your game week 33 went. You were on bench boost, and your team looked very very good in terms of how you set up. Getting to your bench boost. I played my wild card in 31, played my bench boost in 32. As you just heard, did terribly. I think I got 7 points on my bench
Smart.
boost, which I'll
Still
I'll
though, process was there.
Yeah, the process was there. But yeah, just read out your team, and yeah, tell us how game week 33 went and where you're at the moment as well.
Yeah, I've gone streaking recently. Lots of green arrows, lots of chips being in play. I scored 80 points in game week 33. A little bit underwhelming. I was definitely hoping to be in the triple digits, but with the lack of production from the captains over the last kind of 5 game weeks, the scores have definitely been lower. Still a 20% green arrow. I went from a fun 888th in the world to now 711. So still good, but over the last 2 game weeks, I used my triple captain on Isak. I feel like he left a lot of points on the board, and then only scoring 9 points on my bench boost. Pretty mediocre at best. And bench boost is one of those chips that really hampers and troubles you in terms of planning. And I ended up going into a game week 30 wild card at the last minute. I wild carded maybe an hour and a half before the deadline on a Tuesday morning in between work meetings. So not exactly where I wanted to be, but had Hollins, had Clivert, and had a few other Gabrielle. I just had a few holes that needed to be filled, so ended up wild carding. But yeah, Raya and Martinez in the back line, 7 and 4. They were fine. Defensively, the star of my game week is the
Kiwi.
Kiwior, 13 points. Massive. I just did not think Saliba was worth the price to bring in for Gabrielle.
Yeah.
Basically £2 million difference between Kiwi and Saliba. And it's not like Saliba has really great attacking intent. So brought Kiwi in. He scores a goal in the first 3 minutes. Oh, I was very stoked. There was a shout out to my guy at FPL Paz. Him and I were singing up and down the left
Wow.
flanks, running around like crazy to get that goal from one of the differential slots in our teams. Munoz, Gavardiol, Kansa, Livermento. Very underwhelming. Kansa with 3, Livermento with 0. It is what it is. You don't want to take too many hits at all this season. I haven't taken really a hit at all the whole season for defenders and really minimized my defensive transfers completely. So that's been part of my strategy too, especially with the players like Trent not really featuring for big parts of the season. Midfielders, Sarr, Rogers, Salah, De Bruyne, Saka. Wow, none of those players scored more than 7 points in a double. Pretty sad. Especially KDB. He was a last minute move into my team before the deadline, and still happy to own him. Glad. I mean, he played
Yeah.
180 minutes
Yeah.
somehow,
That's
basically across
impressive.
2 game weeks, but no points there. I mean, maybe his best chance was he had one shot that was blocked in the first match and then almost had like a running header, which was very surprising to see him make a run like that, but no points there. And I was weighing up kind of looking at Bumo, but I would say I was like 75% on KDB and 25% on Bumo. But when you have double game weeks and you're really trying to hit that 20-point haul, you got to go for the double game week player and play your doubles hard. Like it's so
Yeah.
much more fun to go that route. And so I then have Mateta up front with 10, Marmouche captained, double blank for 8, and then Isak as well, who is on my bench boost. So long-winded storytelling there, but yeah, Green Arrow can't complain. But I was at I think 1,135 going into my triple captaincy. So I was honestly like praying to be closer to like 500 overall after
Yeah.
using triple captain and bench boost. But here we are, and yeah, the 3-digit streak continues.
That's brilliant. It's so good. Honestly, I've been following your journey over the, like I say, last couple of months, and you're just flying at the moment. So please go win it. Please go win it for us. Have another. It'll be nice. I mean, what are the chances of having another champion from the States? Just in the last sort of four or
Oh
five
man,
years or so,
so
right?
yeah, so Jamie Pickett is in one of our hashtag FPL USA group chats, and he was saying that in game week, I think 32, he was outside the top 1K. And so he
Wow.
went from 32 to 38 game weeks, 6 or 7 game weeks, and he ended up winning it all, which
It
is
can be
truly
done.
insane. So yeah, it can be done. You need a miracle, but miracles do happen.
My
I'm
money's
just
on
trying
you.
to keep pushing. Yeah, I don't think so after the last couple game weeks, but I'm just trying to push on and crack on for my best finish ever.
Yeah, love it. How do you keep a cool head? Like as in a calm kind of, be balanced in your your thinking, your picks. When you're strategizing, when you're that high. Like I've had a, decent, start finishes to a season. Nowhere near this though. So yeah, are you finding yourself second guessing a little bit more, or just keeping it cool completely?
Yeah, I mean the KDB pick was I had in my notes from last year actually that I would never own KDB again. And so that one was definitely kind
You
of
got that list
funny
too?
that yeah, some of your do not fly uh assets on that list, but Kev I only have actually 3 football kits and he is one of them. I've just always loved watching his excellence and the way that he sets up his teammates and I got sucked back in. So, on a different game week, maybe he gets double digits, but that's the only time that I've really like been losing it a bit and trying to make a decision on to bring on a player. I do have moments throughout the season though I made 4 transfers in game week 29 and I was 50-50 between Alanga and Cho, the former Chelsea Blues player, and I ended up going with Cho and that was a 13-point difference. And
Wow.
if I had 13 more points, we'd be closer to the top 300. And so that is one where that 50-50 call in one game week punished me so badly, and that was all me. That I messed it up. I fumbled the bag, as they say, and yeah. So for me though, I think the season's been pretty clear on some of the top picks, and it's really just been about timing, and that's what so much of FPL. You
Yeah.
need some timing and some variance and some luck, but um, having multiple transfers in the pocket like at all times. So I think if they continue the 5 free transfers into next season, I'm going to have 2 playing bench players that I can rely on every
Yeah.
game week because I have on the fringes alternated some of my bench players. And, sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. But
Yeah.
in game weeks where you get that lucky 10-pointer, where another manager just doesn't have an option coming off their bench, I think Mikolenko subbed for me like 2 or 3 times this season.
Yeah.
I got his only assist in like FPL history. I got a 6 or 7 pointer from him a few times, auto subbed when people were sick or fell down the stairs the day before and we had no idea. So, yeah, having a little deeper squad next season is going to be something that I definitely play into so that I can roll transfers
Sure.
much more frequently and then attack places where managers will be taking hits.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I want to give a quick shout out to Pabs, who's FPL Impulse, who's in the chat as well. He's also having a phenomenal season. He is also in top 1K in the world right now.
Woo! Love
Yeah,
that.
and a really good channel as well in FPL content that he's creating. So he mentioned 81 in game week 33 bench boost, but no free hit for 34 is worrying me big time. Yeah, so I think we're gonna touch on some of the picks. If if you're not on bench boost, I'm gonna really quickly talk about my team and just kind of swiftly move on from it as well because obviously it
Tough one,
wasn't.
tough one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, look, it wasn't great. For me this game week. Let me just move that out there. That's a bit weird. Yeah, it wasn't great for me this game week, unfortunately. So, look, I captained Saka, but I'll read out the team really quickly as well and how many points I got as well. So I've got 56 points and it took me to 8.2k overall, which was a massive drop for me. So, dropped by like 110%, which is hefty, right? So I was previously in, yeah, so just basically doubled my rank there. But I had Raya in goal, Guardiola, Saliba, Munoz, and yeah, like I say, just a little bit disappointed that there wasn't much more from Raya and Saliba there. Asensio, gosh, that pick just keeps on giving. Honestly, I'm slightly disappointed, but it's okay as well. Like I made those picks thinking they were a good opportunity with a double coming up as well, and then yeah, just the fact that he missed those pens, has probably set me back a little bit more. I was hoping to be a little bit ahead, if that makes sense. I guess the way
Yeah.
I've been looking at my season as well is that it's not just game week after game week, right? You want to make gains where you've got the opportunity to. So for me, my bench boost in game week 32 was an opportunity to make gains so that I can compete with, the bench boosters in game week 33. And so the fact that Asensio missed 2 pens is just insane. And then Forest, who I have double Forest defense as well, to lose their clean sheet in like the
Oh man.
94th minute as well. So I was looking at a 20 something points, bench boost to
Yeah, 25 points.
to
Wow.
like 7 points, but it's okay. Look, so who else have I got in my mid? I've got Saar, who's been super disappointing. He's just not really picked up the form, and it seems like Eze's it's sort of switched between them, and I think that was always going to be the difficulty between Eze and Saar. Like they're very, like whilst Eze's on what I thought was on the pens, maybe Mateta's on pens now as well. I'm not too sure, but I think it was just a budget pick for me, as well, going with Saar. But in hindsight, maybe I should have gone with Eze, who's just been returning with some points there. Salah has been quite disappointing, like the last couple of game weeks, especially. Like whilst again, it's my beloved Liverpool, and we're going to win the league. It's still quite
This
challenging.
weekend too.
Yeah, I know, against Spurs. I think the nice thing is that it's going to be at home. And
In front of
it's
the crowd,
in front
in
of
front of the
the
fans. It's going to
fans.
be an absolute scene. It's going to be electric.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
excited.
I'm tempted to take off Monday morning because it's on at 1:30 a.m. on Monday.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, I was thinking, I had a look at my work calendar. I was like, oh, which meetings do I have in the morning? Which ones do I sort of push out? So look, Salah's been a little bit disappointing. Not much from open play, and even going into this game week, I'm like a little bit tentative about sort of captaincy on him. But we'll chat about that
Yeah.
shortly.
And I
But
actually want to just add there too, like over the last 5 game weeks between Palmer, Saka, Salah, Isak with a few 5 and 6 pointers. None of those players who
It's been a
have been
shit
highly
show.
captained and owned have delivered points. And therefore, when you're talking about the highs and lows of FPL, when your captains just across a game are not delivering, it's easier to feel that pain across the rest of your squad. And
Mm,
you're like, oh man, that -1 from hurts even more knowing
yeah.
that my captain only got 10 points. Whereas earlier in the season, everyone's flying on Holland and then to Salah caps, and the Salah perma cap it was getting boring for a minute. I was
Oh,
definitely just like, when can I go against this guy after getting so many points from him? But yeah, you definitely feel that, where have these guys gone? I know they're in Europe and in other competitions, but to have the
oh, don't get me
kind of
started.
ceilings,
Don't.
to have the ceilings that Saka and Palmer and obviously Salah have, and then to just get nothing
Oh,
continuously, it's like crazy.
and then I went and captained Saka. So there you go. That's basically how that game week ended up.
Should have
And he
had a
could have had
brace
so
in the
much
first game,
more. He should have had
at
so
least a
much
brace.
more. But also, I'm really confused why he played, like more than 60 in the first game and only played, like 30 or 25 or whatever it ended up being in the second game. It was just really strange. But yeah, I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
look,
if you
it's
told me
fine.
that he was going to start and play over
Yeah.
65 minutes in the
Yeah.
first game, or at least start versus Ipswich, I 100% would have captained him over Marmoush. I just did not. I thought he was going to play 25 off the bench in the first match versus Ipswich, and then start and play about 60 versus Palace in the second. So
Yeah.
just out of order, but in the end, it didn't matter at all. And anybody who punted on captaincy on KDB, I guess, is laughing, getting 10 or
Yeah.
12 points.
That and Mateta. I mean, given Mateta was benched in their first fixture, right? So up front, I've got Marmoush and Isak and Mateta, which were the typical three up front that most I think managers had going into game week 33. So yeah, it's a shame. And I just realised that my screen has just disappeared on me. Let me just get that back.
Sorry, we still have our faces smiling and
Yeah, exactly,
talking.
exactly. It's back. It's back. I'm not sure what happened there. Um, yeah, there's obviously like connection things going on, but it's also hitting 9 a.m. and maybe everyone in my building has decided that they're working from home. And actually, no, why would they be? It's Anzac Day over here in Australia.
Yeah, happy
So
Anzac
maybe
Day.
maybe it's just a bunch of kids, watching, I don't know, YouTube kids, or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Tell the listeners what the Anzac Day traditions are.
Oh, I don't really. So typically, so when I was living in Canberra, which was only for a short while, the one of the Anzac Day traditions I did anyway, was to go to the memorial, Anzac Day memorial,
Yep.
and just do the dawn and the dawn ceremony and all of that. But I have to admit, I don't really do anything else. I just take it as a holiday, and that's the thing. Like when you're living here, you just kind of go, oh, okay, well, what's that holiday? We get the King's Day off as well, so I don't really. Yeah, did you do much when you were here, like in terms of like traditions for Anzac Day?
No, mostly drinking in the afternoon since
There
we
you
had
go.
the day off. That would, and then
That's
maybe
pretty much it.
Some Anzac Day biscuits with my flat white. Oh, miss those flat
Oh,
whites. Oh, the coffee, so
actually,
good in Australia.
Anzac biscuits has probably got to be, yeah, something that like I've made in the past on Anzac Day, but yeah, probably will go and buy some or something like that this time round. All right, so
And
that
then,
was
then
my.
it's weird though, right? Like, do you go back to work tomorrow on Friday?
It's
No,
Friday
I
for
said
me today.
Oh my, you're in the future. You're in the future. Wow. See,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
Saturday.
I
It's
forgot. I
Saturday
forgot about that.
tomorrow. Yeah, our
Oh
day's
yeah,
just
brilliant,
started.
brilliant.
Yeah, so I'll be in FPL mode pretty much, for the rest of the day to some extent, and hanging out with my
Hell yeah.
family, and also hanging out with family on the weekend as well. Just kind of just another long weekend. It's been great over here actually because like we've just had Easter, so it was a short week. In general. And then the week before was a short week as well. So most people could take off like 7 working days and have, like 2 weeks off, basically. So yeah, it's been really nice doing that. Anyway, we have been streaming for almost 50 minutes and we've not even got onto free hit 34. So I think it's probably
Very
a good
self-involved of us,
time.
Meera. Very
Very
self-involved. I've
self-involved.
gone way too long on my team and my little lucky journey of
That's
variance
okay.
this season. So
You
let's give the people what they want and talk about free hit and talk
I
about
think
game
we
week
should.
34.
I think we should jump there. So for those of us, so those that are still sort of tuned in, please do hit like. Please do subscribe if you're tuning in for the first time. We've got Brian on the show who's having a great season. I'm having a pretty decent season as well. Whilst it's been a bit of a roller coaster, as I
Oh,
mentioned,
you're
it's
having a
been
great season.
up and down. Thank you, Brian. I don't feel like that when I'm, the points gained is -20 this game week. that's that's
Yeah, but
insane.
if you
That's
would
the
have gone
worst
into
I've
the
had.
season, if you would have gone into the season and said you were top 10K with, 5, 6 game weeks left, you would take that
Yeah, I would.
every
I would.
single day of
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
week,
for
right?
sure.
So I think that's a perspective, even though you had a
Yeah,
really rough game week, but just thinking about like your goals going into every season, top 10K is the gold standard. And
yeah.
so you're still primed for even top 5K finish. So let's nail these free hits and move up the ranking.
That sounds great to me. I think I'll definitely need all the help that I can get at the moment. I say that sitting in top 10K, but yeah, you know what I mean. You know how you know how it's going. So projected goals and clean sheet odds. I love these graphics from Rob T, FPL. I've managed to sort of pop, I think another one in that he had as well for this game week too. So with like the projected, scorers. So we'll go through a couple of these while we're chatting, and then like what some of the obvious things that you see over here. Like for me, when I looked at this and looked at the fixtures, they're really good fixtures, right? So now typically with a free hit. Now, in the past, I've played a free hit on a a double game week, and then I've played free hits on a blank game week. Have you had any sort of particular, like perspective on that? Like, is it usually blank for you? When do you normally play your double game weeks? Oh, sorry, your free hits.
It just is so season dependent. I think it depends on how many doubles and how many blanks we're going to have in a season. You know, I think last year I had the abysmal blank game week 29 score of like 17 points. And so that did stick with me. But then when everybody had like 120 plus points in the larger double in game week, I don't know, 34 last season, I took a -4 and I ended up, or -8, and I ended up on like 140 points. So, there's many ways to play.
Mm,
Depending if you're in the top 10K, it's often good to just swim with the stream and kind of play your chips that way so that you're finding ways to make up points in the margins versus go completely different where you could tank your rank by, half or more.
yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at it. But this season we were not supposed to have this many double game weeks, and it
No.
ended
Yeah.
up playing out that way. So I think next season we're supposed to, in quotations, have less. But I'm very happy to be on free hit in game week 34. I think about 70% of free hits are still available to managers in the top 10K.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at what you're up against and where you can gain, that also means that 30% of people have used it already. So they could really
So
be suffering this game week.
So did you have the strategy of going into this game week well ahead to play your free hit? Is that what you had in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a very linear um, chip strategy just based on my team,
Yeah.
and it could really look good if Man City plays Villa in the FA Cup final, and then both of
Mm.
those teams double in game week 36 because I already have 6 of those players, and then I'll
Yeah.
be able to
Nice.
go out and be either aggressive or look at game week 37 and shoring up my team. So, but yeah, I've been pretty linear and I've been planning this for about since the doubles were provisionally announced. I've been really looking at this
Yeah.
strategy to
Are you
go all in on
surprised?
teams like City and Arsenal in 33.
Yeah. Are you surprised how many managers could end up playing the free hit in because obviously you're in top 1K, I'm in top 10K at the moment. I'm expecting maybe about 80% of managers also playing their free hit, like engaged managers playing their free hit this game week. So it's
Well, luckily for you, it won't be that high because 31% of managers in the top 10K have used it. So,
oh,
that's
okay.
if you can gain, yeah, that's just straight chip stats off of usage from live FPL. So,
Yeah,
like
okay.
in that sense, if you nail your free hit, you could really be gaining on 30% of the players around you. So
Yeah.
that's also what I'm hoping for. I would love to hopefully nail some of the picks around the peripheral that could make the difference. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I also know some people that are on alternative strategies, which has been interesting to see for people that are chasing a little bit. At FPL Theorist, who was on our podcast recently, he's on a free hit 36 strategy. So,
Okay.
he only missed about 12 points this game week, and now he'll have a team of 11 doublers in potential double game week 36.
Wow.
So, obviously, many different ways to play it, but I would say that I always try and stick to a strategy maybe 5, 6 game weeks ahead of time so I can, if we know the doubles are coming, just base my team around that. So using tools like FPL.team, shout out to Peter. He does a fantastic job with that interface, and I've always used that for future planning and kind of
Yeah.
fixture blocks of 5 or 6. So I've been locked into free hit 34 for a while.
Yeah, same, pretty much. Pretty much similar, to you, like just planning like 4 or 5 game weeks ahead with my chips. I had a long chat with someone on Twitter about why I played my bench boost in game week 32, but I just set up that way to play it. And look, I only
Yep.
had 6 points left on the bench this game week, anyways. But let's have a look at the fixtures. So, any like obviously there's some very obvious fixtures there, as we can see. So, the Chelsea one in terms of goals I thought was a little bit lower than I expected, but maybe not as well. So just 1.85 goals. Newcastle not too surprised about against Ipswich. Almost 3 goals there. Wolves, again, sort of 2 goals against Leicester. Liverpool, not surprising. 3 goals against, potentially against Spurs. So I guess these are the teams that we're probably targeting the most. And then you've got like 2 goals against, West Ham for Brighton and potentially 2 goals apiece for Bournemouth and Fulham against, Southampton, that Fulham are away to, and of course, Bournemouth are hosting United as well. So, yeah, any surprises with what you've seen here with the spreads?
I mean, we're very lucky that all 3 relegation bound teams are available for us to
Yes.
target in this free hit 34. That's first and foremost. So I think you really have to look at having probably 5 to 7 players against those 3 teams.
Yeah.
I think that's a really strategy that will yield a lot of dividends there. Newcastle, Ipswich, that should be a bloodbath, especially Newcastle after getting battered at Villa Park. Wow, 1-1 at halftime, and then they get their shit kicked in. Excuse me, I can't remember if I can swear on this, but they
No,
get
you can
crushed.
swear away.
Yeah, they get absolutely rocked in the second half at Villa Park, so they should come out with a bit of motivation to really stomp on those tractor boys and send them down. So you got to look at that one for a big
Yeah.
result there. So double Newcastle attack is going to be very popular on free hit.
Yeah.
Those who can maybe fade Jacob Murphy and maybe go with Barnes, depending on his health, that is something that I'm considering. But with Gordon on his way back, that's a little bit tricky there.
Yeah.
And then it'll be fun to like own double Wolves assets. Wow, I'm gonna have
I
Cunha and probably Ran in my side, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad it's just for one week because I
So
don't quite trust them.
there's so much to talk about, and I appreciate that we're fair chunk also through, and I'm hoping that people can stay with us, and I'll timestamp this as well. And I hope that you've got time as well, because I've got time this morning. It's a holiday over here, so I don't mind. But I just wanted to quickly mention we've got Colm in the chat, who's a huge, a lovely supporter who comes on the show and comes on, lots of shows as well, and just gives us a nice sort of shout out as well. So really appreciate that, Colm. Colm is a Fulham supporter, and he's just mentioned that Fulham have a poor record at Southampton. So that's like food for thought there from a Fulham supporter. Yeah, I might sort of drop my brother-in-law a note as well, who's a huge Fulham supporter as well, and ask him, how he feels about some Fulham attack against Southampton as well. But, just to your point about like double Wolves as well. So Cunha obviously has been in the headlines and has been eyeing up, going over to Old Trafford, and it always makes me wonder why anyone would want to go to United at the moment.
I know. How
But
much of an upgrade is that,
yeah,
Wolves
exactly.
compared to Man U?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Would you say that, because I was previously thinking, do I captain Cunha? And we'll chat about captaincy as well. But you know, I was thinking about captain Cunha. Do you think he'll continue getting the minutes as well, or do we think that maybe it's an opportunity to just bench him? There's only 5 matches to go for them. What happens now?
Yeah, I think I will definitely be dropping into Dan's DMs, Mr.
Yes.
Black Wolf himself, just to get a final confirmation. But from my perspective, they're on their best run as a club in the history, right? Or at least recent 25 years in terms of this unbeaten streak and winning in the Premier League. And he's obviously a talisman that can come in and just make something out of nothing continuously. So I would be very surprised if he doesn't start. I know we're waiting on Bellegarde and his health, but he should be able to play off the left and JSL through the middle, and they should wreak a lot of havoc
Yeah.
against the Leicester team that really has nothing to play for. And after the Vardy news, the fans are going to be pretty sad and just nostalgic, and the team is just distracted and ready for championship football. So I think he's still locked in my free hit team. We'll see what happens in pressers, but in terms of like trying to finish the season strong, it's not like there's another player who they're trying to see if is like the future of that position in the
Yeah.
side. And
True.
I think if you're the new manager, you just want to keep rolling. And I think obviously they did that a lot without Cunha in the side for his antics and whatnot. But I would still expect him 75-80% start, and that's enough for me because he
Yeah.
shits bonus points. Oh my goodness, this guy
Oh, he
does
does. Oh, he
so many
does.
actions in the
He
new
touches the
in
ball
the
and he's
new
like on 3 bonus, right?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. For him to get 3 bonus points in the last match versus Man U and do practically, gets the lucky free hit or free kick that goes in from Sarabia. But yeah, 8 pointer. I think
Yeah.
he's one of those players that has that double digit floor, and you have to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Omar has just mentioned in the chat, why is no one talking about Sarabia and Strand Larson? Not sure. I think Strand Larson. I've seen a few drafts with Cunha and Strand Larson up front, right? And
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't love it.
no,
Pick
but
one or the other.
yeah, but that third spot is an interesting one, which we'll take a look at with some of the drafts. And I asked the community on at least like the people that are following me on Twitter, some of the nailed on picks that they've got in their free hit drafts if they're on free hit. And yeah, look, Strand Larson wasn't one of them. Cunha, Isak were the nailed on picks, up front. So
Yep.
yeah, it's going to be really interesting when we look at that a bit more specifically. But just over here, in terms of teams to target. And so when you look at it in perspective, you've got Wolves there, and around Wolves, you've got Fulham and Bournemouth just slightly above, Wolves there, in terms of like from a picks point of view. But Liverpool, Newcastle, Brighton, interestingly, Brighton, who are up against West Ham. It's a home fixture for Brighton, 2 goals, at the moment in terms of what's predicted.
That's right.
And I haven't hardly drafted any Brighton players into any of my free hit drafts at the
Me
moment.
neither. Look, I have blinders on when it comes to Brighton. I hate Brighton. I do not like Hertzler. I don't like that
Oh
other
no.
fraud, De Zerbi, who is just absolutely screwing me last season. This in and out with João Pedro. I take him out of the side. He peers out of nowhere, gets 2 penalties. So I'm not a Brighton fan, not to mention they've just fleeced Chelsea for the last couple years. I think we still owe them a couple £100 million. So I've not been a big Brighton supporter, but I will say if you are chasing rank, you definitely want to give a long look at Welbeck
Welbeck.
in your third striker slot. He's probably going to be on pens with João Pedro out. So that's a big call. And then Matoma is a cheeky punt. Like if you want double Brighton attack and they score 3 or 4 goals and some other teams don't do as well, that could really be a way if you wanted to chase. But yeah, if you're sub, 100K, I would have at least one of those players in my
Yeah.
free hit, try and gain ground on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have to agree. And I think even with Fulham as well, like what, as Cole mentioned, their Southampton away might not be as easy as what it seems on paper. And I'm seeing a lot of Fulham players being drafted in, right? Like I can see
Yeah.
Southampton getting a goal, right? And we've got like Sessegnon like in
I
pretty
mean,
much every draft
that's
at the moment.
I'm gonna have my voodoo doll out, just freaking Cess, because I'm gonna fade Cess in my free hit, and I think I'm really looking at a strategy of playing only home players in my
Yeah, that's
starting
what I'm.
11,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we have that option. And Southampton, since they've gone down, they've just found a way to score in the last like 25
This
minutes
is
of
it.
matches, which has been fantastic. It's not more than one goal, but they've been scoring a goal and really knocking some clean sheets out, and dirtying those sheets. So that's what I'm
Yeah,
going to be, I think, hoping for in
and
this instance. And Fulham, like what, there's Jimenez, there's Cess. You could go with Leno, but you're not going to really go towards the midfield. So I think it's really, are you going to start Cess over another one of these great defensive options?
yeah, absolutely. And my boy Asensio has boosted Ramsdale's confidence, after the two pen saves that Ramsdale has
Yeah,
managed.
that's right.
And so I can just
Oh,
imagine,
such bad pens.
so bad. Oh my God. In the same spot as well, like the second one as well. But Ramsdale's probably, yeah, just on fire. Like he's probably thinking, yeah, bring on the pen. So I can just see Raul, Jimenez getting a pen and Ramsdale saving that. Not that I'm trying to put that out into the universe, but that I guess sort of suggests the 58% sort of away win that's there for Fulham at the
Yeah, it's
moment with
huge.
the match
I mean,
odds.
Fulham, they have some motivation, right? They're still fighting for European slots, potentially qualify. So I expect them to win, but
Yeah.
I feel like their goals have been a little bit unpredictable as well throughout the season. You've
Mm,
seen Iwobi come in, you've seen Muniz score goals. Like we don't know about his availability going into this match, so I think that's something that we're kind of going to have to wait on, and that will
yeah.
determine if Raul makes a lot of sides. But um, if Muniz is healthy, you're expecting him to come on with at least
Mm,
20 plus minutes left.
yep.
So, um, yeah, I'm just going to be fully fading Fulham, I think, at this
Mm.
point, but we'll see after pressers tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pabs has just mentioned as well that, Liverpool at 78% win there is a little bit lower than what I thought
Oh,
as
I can't believe
well.
that's not 99%.
I
They are going
know.
to kick the crap
Spurs?
out of Tottenham tomorrow. They're going to squash the Spuds into little rosemary potato hash browns. They're
Oh,
they're
yum.
toast. They're done tomorrow.
I should have made something like that with the avocado on toast I had for breakfast this
Yeah,
morning.
you
That
got
sounds.
the weekend
I
ahead of
might have
you.
to
Don't
do
worry.
that. Yeah, exactly. I might have to do that. Yeah, I am surprised, about that. But I guess we just need a draw as well to win the Prem now. Thank you, Palace
Yeah.
for that. Really, really appreciate it.
Not to mention you have Tottenham and United, who are somehow in the semifinals of
Oh
Europa
yeah, this is true.
Conference Mickey Mouse League, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
they're bottom five in the Premier League, but they're still in the semis. So I guess
Yep.
European football just ain't what it used to be these days. But they should be putting out a very mixed lineup.
I
So you
think
just
so.
have no idea who's going to start and what slots do they play youngsters, and that
Yeah.
just boosts, I think, the prospects of Bournemouth and Liverpool. I
Mm,
think Evan Nilsson is going under the radar a bit, as a pick, just because the forward slots are so competitive right now on free hit. But he's
yeah.
a player who's really come into his own since coming back from his injury, and
Mm.
has impressed. So he's a player that's also on that third kind
I
of
think
forward slot
I think
watch
the
list.
the match that I'm most curious about, well, especially with the picks that I've started to see in the drafts as well, is the Forest versus Brentford. So it looks like it's a home fixture for Forest, so 43% there, for a win. But it could equally be, Brentford win as well, just because Forest have been a little bit leaky and yeah, just unsure. Like I feel like it could be another 1-0 to Brentford at the 95th minute kind of thing. There's a possibility of that, but I'm seeing Mbumo, appearing in drafts. I'm seeing Wood appearing in drafts.
Boomo.
Wood is in my own
Yeah.
draft, right? So, yeah, I'm curious by that one, especially to just work out like, do I go for any of those picks there? But if we take a look at the projected scorers as well, so this was really interesting. I've just taken the top ones. Rob TFPL did have up to about 20 players. I think he usually sort of puts out, and I saw Jacob Murphy quite low down, got Gordon quite low down as well, Barnes quite low down as well. I'm not sure what's going on there. Probably the rotation, I guess, in terms of starts and what the minutes prediction looks like there as well. But I guess no surprises here in terms of top projected scorers. You got Salah, leading that charge there, and then Isak, Raul, Welbeck, Jota, Cunha, Luis Diaz, Strand Larson. You could see him, up there. Gakpo was an interesting one, if he starts, and just depends on positioning for the Liverpool sort of players up front as well. Like Jota, Gakpo, and Diaz are always a bit of a mystery with how they're going to line up in that sort of front three. I'm thinking double, Liverpool attack at the moment as well. So seeing Gakpo there and Jota a lot further up than and Luis Diaz as well makes me a little bit tentative with which one to go with. But Palmer, who is in so many drafts at the moment, I've put him in my own draft as well. But a part of me, and I think Pabs, who's had to drop off, the stream, it is quite late over in the UK now, it's gone past midnight. He did mention that he would not probably go with Palmer in his free hit draft, and maybe playing some of the other options that are available in the mid as well. So, but there hasn't been a single draft that I've seen that does not have Palmer in the mid there at the moment. So lots to kind of like as we jump to the drafts, but anything obvious stand out to you with this particular graphic?
Yeah, I think firstly and foremost, just the fact that Liverpool are predicted to score at least 3 goals. You see 4 of their attackers listed here. Again, these are market odds that handicappers are putting out and transcribed into how many kind of expected goals they're going to have. And you got to have 2 of these guys. And most likely, from my perspective, I think that Diaz has been playing well enough, both from a creativity standpoint and just overall, that he gets that start next to Salah. So those are the 2 attackers that I will be focusing on. Now, if you wanted to go completely differential, you just have to figure out between Gakpo and Jota who's going to start that match. But I also see this being a party. I see this being 2 or 3-0 in the 61st minute, and all these guys getting their standing ovations, coming off early. So I really see their kind of upside and expected minutes way down. But given the stakes and everything, I do think that there are going to be a lot of goals early, and Spurs have nothing to play for except for the Mickey Mouse Cup in Europe. So I think, again, that's where my eyes go to. Like we said before, Welbeck, great shout. He's nowhere near my side, but that's just because I hate Brighton, like I said before. And Palmer's interesting on free hit because although he has not performed, I think he had his largest haul of the season versus Everton earlier, and that was an away match. Maybe he discovers his form, but think about who you're up against, right? Like 30% of people are not going to be on free hit. They probably don't have Palmer and won't have Palmer. And so it's also a spot where he's not going to be popular in non-free hit teams. And so now it's actually more of an edge for you to just swim with the other folks and just grab him,
Yeah.
knowing that, again, his upside is very high. We've seen the attack over the last 6 game weeks for Chelsea dip way down and their defense go way up.
Yeah.
So I still think
Isn't
Everton at
Kukurea your
home is
high
a good
scoring?
fixture.
Isn't Kukurea a high
Oh
scoring,
yeah, of the year
player?
of 2025, him and his paella and his estrellas. Oh my goodness, it's sad to note, but he's in contention of my free hit team too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, let's
Yeah.
have a look at. I'm going to jump to your free hit draft that you sent over yesterday. And I imagine like we're both going to be probably doing lots of tweaking between now and the deadline, I'm sure. But for you, I guess, who are, talk through your free hit draft that you've got here. And also, yeah, let me know if they're nailed or not. And what I might do is just put a post-it note next to it on the fly.
Yeah, so my free hit features 11 players with home matches. So
Mm,
that is something that I'm very bullish on, just knowing that this point in the season, the home crowd might buoy your attack a little bit more or just holding on to that clean sheet during the last 10 minutes of a match. So that's the way I'm leaning here. Like I said before, I'm gonna fade Fulham. And that could be a punt that hurts me.
yeah.
Mainly Cess and the Cucurella spot are kind of up for grabs at the moment.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I'm in a spot where three players from Liverpool are essential,
Mm,
and Trent is the big one. We need to hear more during the pressers, but what are your thoughts on his expected minutes? Because if he's going to start and play 60, lock in that clean sheet early. I don't mind. I
yeah.
mean, I don't mind that in the least. But if he's going to be benched, having a one pointer on free hit in a starting slot is pretty brutal. So,
Yeah.
would love to get your take as the resident Liverpool supporter here on this episode.
So my gut feel is that he's going to start, and I probably backed with a little bit of bias there. But look, Trent's probably not staying with Liverpool anymore, so I do think that given this is going to be the match that we're going to win the league, unless we lose, like actually, I'm not going to put that out into the universe either.
How dare you?
But take another shot the following week. But no, look, all jokes aside. Trent's not staying. It really does not look that way. I think there's a tiny bit of hope that he will stay, will win the league, and he'll, have a change of heart and want to go again. I just don't see that happening. But what I do see happening is, being crowned the Premier League, winners in that match, and having Trent start that match would be incredible. But I
Yeah, I mean, think
think
about everything that he's given to the club,
that's right.
the fact that Liverpool are in this position because he had such great spells of play, to bring him to this point. I just don't see a reason why in this specific match that Slot would not play his best and most talented 11. And then after this match, the league is locked up.
It's
Like,
done.
sure,
Yeah.
go ahead and
Yeah.
play Bradley the rest of the season there. But yeah, I
I
would just be surprised if you go into Liverpool brass and they don't play Trent again the rest of the season. Like that, I don't think they would do that to him after everything that he's brought the club.
Yeah, so look, while I hope that he would
It's all
start,
narrative, but
I
yeah.
absolutely, and I love a good narrative, and I think that's the nice thing about at least like the way I play FPL, where you've got to take the full sort of context of what's happening, for that player as well. But if anything, I think I'm leaning more towards him coming on with like 30 minutes to go or something like that, and getting the end of the
Ooh,
match and that applaud and
brutal,
accolade, that
brutal.
kind of thing. That's what my gut is saying. Like my hope is that he starts the match because I want nothing more than to have him in my team as well. But I think that it will be more of a sub on, afterwards, and once the match is wrapped up and he, gets a nice sort of applause at the end of the match and a massive roar from the stadium and the fans who did not get to see their beloved team. We did not get to see. Liverpool win the league in the season that was COVID, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it might be the other way around. Whilst I hope that Trent would start, and I think he would probably want the same as well. I think it's going to be the other way around. So personally,
All
I
right.
probably won't go there. Yeah, just because
Yeah.
of that,
Interesting.
and I
Interesting.
want nailed on, at least sort of 60 to 90-minute players, rather than potential sort of benching headaches and
Yeah.
things
I
that
guess
we might have.
the other scenario, if he does come off the bench, tired legs versus Spurs or versus their third stringers, like they Liverpool has no reason not to just continue to dominate
Yeah,
the ball and create chances in front of their home side. So, we saw him come off
it could be a
and really
show.
save the game
It could be a
versus
show.
Leicester. Yeah, and so I
Yeah,
think he's still going to be pretty prominent in the attack no matter how many minutes he plays. But
yeah,
yeah,
it
you
could
definitely
be.
hope he starts.
Could be a carnival, right? Like it could easily be. But
Yeah.
yeah. So in terms of like, so do you want to just read out like the team that you've got here? And
Sure, let's
yeah,
do it. This is called the section where Brian reads. for the podcast listeners, as they
That's
say.
right. That's right. I am uploading
Yeah,
this as a podcast, actually, like
I
for
know
those
it's
that don't know. That would be really good and kind of you to read.
I was just hoping everyone is going to tune in to see our smiling faces on YouTube. But for those commuting to work, I have Pope in goal, Eight Nori, Cucurella, and Trent in the back line. Then I have Barnes, Palmer, Mo, Luis Diaz, and then up front, Isak, Cunha, and Wood. So, I have a lot of different options here. I think there's only a few slots that are up in the air for me, and that would be Wood, Barnes, Trent, Cucurella, and probably the goalkeeper. So I'm about 7 out of 11. I think the main point here for Wood, he's delivered me so much happiness this season somehow in his 34th year on Earth or however old he is. I can't believe the season he's having, but Wood plays on Thursday, and I would just love to have some action, whether it be Wood or Bumo, on that last day of the game week where you just have a little hope, maybe a little magic comes in. I mean, getting those Kiwior points where it was just so sensational
Yeah.
on a work day and midweek football, and then you get a little bit more of an uptick of a green arrow. So I really want to have a player in there. Was talking earlier on Twitter with Roberto from Yellow Army, and he was like, look, the only risk is that he picks up a knock in the FA Cup on the weekend,
Yeah.
recovers enough to feature on the bench, and then subs on for a one-pointer. That's a lot of what ifs, but that is a small risk you are taking on. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing there. Like I said, Raul is probably a good pick. Welbeck is a good pick there too. But right now I got Mr. Meat and Potatoes, Chris Wood,
Yeah.
in the side. So
So did you
yeah,
say
it's rather template. I feel like, maybe fading Fulham assets is my
yeah.
main
So did you say
point of
Diaz is
contention
nailed
here.
for you?
Yeah, I think Diaz is nailed for me. He's
Okay.
punished me earlier. I brought him in first wild card. He hasn't been in my
Yeah.
side actually too often this season.
And Pope
I
as well?
faded him in. Pope, yeah, potentially. I've also looked at Shar in the back line, but I've learned that he has like a hamstring niggle. So I think if he was healthy, he's a way better pick than Trips. I think Trips is washed. I think people
Yeah.
that have him are just thinking that he's the Trips of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
It's
Shar
the
has
hope.
4 goals and 1 assist, so he's the donger on the team. I think he's got a 10 and a 14 pointer in the last 5 game weeks under his belt. So I just don't like the Trips love at all. But home versus Ipswich, they have everything to play for UCL, so they should keep it tight, especially trying to bounce back from that shellacking they took at Villa Park. And
Yeah.
then I think Barnes is the one where Murphy would be a bit of a boring pick because all non-free hit
Yeah,
players will
everyone's got
have
it.
Murphy in their
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
And I wouldn't go from Barnes to Anthony Gordon. So this is a slot that I'm very much up in the air with. We'll see what pressers say. I don't think Howe is over his illness, so we do get a little bit more of a truth teller in the backup assistant manager. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Barnes' ceiling, as we've seen over the last 5 game weeks when he's in form, he's a shoot on sight type of player,
Yeah.
and he has that brace potential to get you, multiple goals in one game because he's not doing as much
Yeah.
passing as
So
we've seen in the past with Anthony Gordon.
so your nail players are going to be Eight Nori, Palmer, Salah, Diaz, Isak, and Cunha at the moment, is what it's looking like, right?
Yep. Yeah. So lots to figure out. Cess is very popular in free hit, and I
Yeah.
understand it. He's playing double out of position, just playing frickin' right wing, and being listed at 4.1. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's Ryan Sessegnon. Like, what are we talking about here? This guy is in the form of his life, but he hasn't really shown much previous to this point. So
Yeah.
Harry Wilson back in training. So Sess could start, could get an attacking return, but he could also get subbed at 54 minutes. And then you're
That's
just
it.
like, wow, like I have 1 point in my side. And that risk is something I might be willing to take on, but I'm still figuring it out with
Yeah.
him.
I like it. I like it. I've got a couple of drafts to show you. and to get, some perspective on. So I'll see if I can zoom out and get all three of them on the screen. It might be a bit tiny, so I'll zoom in as and when sort of needed. I think like the differences between all of these three were, look, I'm really on the fence about my goalkeepers at the moment. So I've got Leno drafted in one, and I was thinking about, potential clean sheet, but also like save points as well. So, getting a couple of other bonus and save points and, would be pretty awesome to have on top of the clean sheet. I think it is quite challenging, despite sort of, looking at the clean sheet odds. I think it's still challenging to try and predict who's going to definitely get that clean sheet. I don't even think Liverpool's going to manage a clean sheet at the moment, just because we're probably going to be a little bit more rock and rolly, and
that's right.
than being safe.
I've heard Liverpool is known for rock and roll.
Yeah, and I think Klopp's going to be in the stand as well, so there's going to be a little bit of that. I'm really not sure where to go with the goalkeepers. So I've got like three drafts up on the screen, and all three of them have different goalkeepers. I've got Leno in one of them, Alisson in the other, and Sanchez in the third one there. But I think like key differences between them, and I'm going to just talk through the middle one here. And the reason why I sort of talk through this one is because I've got double Newcastle defense. So do we think, because of the midfield being a bit of a question mark, do you go for Gordon? Do you go for Barnes? Do you go for Murphy? Like Murphy, as you say, probably won't get you the gains in when you're up against like the non-free hit teams as well. So rather than going for any of the midfielders, I'm thinking, is this a good opportunity to go for double Newcastle defense? And now I'm thinking maybe that's Pope instead. And then, I've got Trippier in this one, but yeah, I do like Fabian Schär. So it'd probably be, Schär. And instead of Sanchez over here in that third draft, maybe it's Pope over here. Maybe I should pop that in. Pope, not poor. Pope.
You almost wrote poop. That's
poop.
That's not a good omen. That's not a good omen.
Yeah.
Look,
maybe
the
maybe
double
that's Pope.
defense on free hit, I hate it, because you're going to be feeling so much pain if
I know.
they give up a lucky goal. So
yeah.
There are enough good defender picks this game week where I feel like you don't have to go with double defense, and you can lean into double attack in this instance. So talking about goalkeepers, I like that I see Kepa noted here. I think Kepa and Leno probably have the highest propensity to get more saves and then also get bonus. And so I think those two guys are great picks. I know I've been eyeing Kepa a bit as well. Ex-Chelsea guy, somehow outperforming Robert Sanchez every game week. But here we are.
Yeah, so with like this particular draft that I've got up on the screen, so this is the first one on here, like Trippier could be Shah, over here. Leno, Kepa, as the goalkeeper sort of, options here. And then Aït-Nouri and Virgil. Look, I've got Virgil here at the moment just because from a threat piece, a set piece threat perspective and not going Trent. But if we hear anything about Trent potentially starting, then I might swap that around as well. But that's when I think I run out of money, to go for Trent. So yeah, I'll have to have a look at whether I go Palmer or not go Palmer, because that's also tempting not to go there, or downgrade my bench a little bit with Kerkez and Cucurella being a little bit over.
You have plenty of money
to play with
in there. Yeah, you throw Cess in there, you can make anything happen. So don't worry about the money. You can react pretty fluidly.
But I think in terms of like my forward line, I'm very tempted to. I mean, obviously we're each going to have Isak and Cunha. I think everyone's probably going to have those two players especially. But Wood at the moment is who I've drafted in my first two drafts over here, and I've got Welbeck in that third one. I think there are other players that are also potential options. So what I did down here, and I'll just kind of pull this up on the screen. So what I did down here was I asked like the FPL community on my Twitter,
very professional, just to
give me a sense check of like who are the nailed on picks in their side. And interesting that I had, so I've with the goalkeepers, I've just left them in yellow at the moment, so they're not nailed on. The ones in black seem to be more nailed on for most managers that got back to me. So Pope, Allison, Leno, Sanchez were the other sort of popular picks that I kind of, kept seeing. So obviously Kepa is another one. I might just pop that in here as well. So just kind of get Kepa in here. As well as another option. Eight Nori seems to be nailed in every team. And yeah, I think Eight Nori will stay in my team as well. But the other ones
I mean,
were
they're
like,
playing. They're. It's such an easy pick on free hit.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're playing the worst team in
that's
the
it.
Premier League.
Yeah,
He's got the most attacking returns of
yeah.
any defender this season. It's just a
And
perfect time for a team who's in form.
Vardy's not on fire at the moment. But watch how he sneaks a goal now.
They've scored 2 goals, or they've scored in 2 matches this whole calendar year. So that's pretty damning. So I expect them to be pretty stingy at the very least. I think Eight Nori's floor is five
Yeah,
points. Like I don't
yeah,
see any world where he does not get an attacking return or get a clean sheet in this one. So that's what
yeah,
I'm hoping.
yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
And Dan
Um,
and Dan promised me it. Mr. Blackwolf himself promised me Rand points. So I'm running
yeah.
up the score.
I like it. I like it. The other popular picks that came out were obviously Sessegnon, Trippier, Cher, Van Dijk, Trent were, popular picks. Again, like people are just uncertain. And Kirkez came up a few times, Cucurella, who I've got on the bench at the moment, in the combination that was being thrown at me, like with what I would see, what I was seeing from the community as well. Palmer Diaz, interestingly, Palmer's not nailed in every, like most of the managers who got back to me and then the drafts that I've been looking at. Palmer doesn't seem to be nailed in those. And so I'm starting to now think, is
Interesting.
he going to be a bit of a differential if we do go for him? Or is it just going to be, a flop pick as he's sort of displayed, unfortunately, over the last, couple of game weeks as well. So I think five points also that he's been getting. Is it worth it? Not sure. And Bumo, Iwobi, Clivert were the other options that kept sort of coming up as well. Bowen, who's sitting on the bench there. Barnes Murphy has been a
Yeah,
question
Bowen.
mark. Yeah, Barnes Murphy has been a question mark as well. Salah would be nailed on, probably captaincy. Isaac Cunha definitely sort of nailed on there. But the other options from a forward
No,
position
no
would
Vissa, interestingly enough.
no
No
Visser.
Vissa and his
Yeah,
15, 16 non-penalty goals this season.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, really interesting. Not seeing that come up in any draft at the moment, and no one's mentioned it either. So the only ones that have come up is Wood, Evanilson, and Welbeck alongside. I mean, Strand
Hmm.
Larsen's popped up, I think once, but I think if you're going Cunha, you're probably not going Strand Larsen typically, unless you're, thinking like combined they're going to score goals and assists together. Yeah, maybe. But Wood, Even
Yeah.
Nilsson, Welbeck, probably the popular picks there. And I think I covered the bench there. But yeah, that's kind of like from a template point of view, it's really interesting what is coming up, for most at the moment.
Yeah, and we're always kind of married to this 3-4-3 formation this season, but I really think there is an opportunity to play 4 defenders this free hit. Like
Yeah,
it would be bold and unpopular, but I think there are going to be 2 defenders that pop up with 12 plus points this game week. I really believe that there's some good fixtures, good defender options,
yeah,
and so if you could nail 2 out of those 3 defenders, or I'll be honest, I was looking at like was a is a 4-3-3 even viable, but
yeah,
I think most players are going to play that 3-4-3. But yeah, I think looking at your chart there for non-free hit players, I think Bumo is one of the best buys this week. I like buying Vissa. I think those are players for the
yeah.
run in that you're going to see. Like I'm planning to potentially be doubled up on those players in game
Mm,
week 35 through 38. So they're definitely good buys this week if you need to shore up your team. I want to shout out my guy at FPL_Hunt. He's from the FPL USA community, and he's going to be taking a -8 this week and not free hitting, but he's bringing in a lot of players who are just primed for the run in.
yeah,
And so if you are on a position where you don't have free hit, I would say you want to field at least 9 players, and try and have your kind of 7 attackers, lined up. Those are the most important spots to have. But
Yeah.
taking a -4, -8, if you're going to be able to save your free hit or wild card, I would definitely look at that for this blank and then be focused on your chips for 35,
Yeah.
36.
So what I've just popped up really like completely impromptu from the from the socials is this graphic by the guys at Solio. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right.
Yep.
Soleo. So Prass, the data is from Prass, and I think like this is Sertalp and a bunch of others who have come together to look at like creating this new data model, and this is basically based on 100 teams that are submitted in the last sort of 24 hours in terms of projected ownership rates, for free hit in game week 34. Interesting to see. Yeah, interesting to see. And it's probably going to be a little bit tiny on the screen. So I'm going to like go through, let's just kind of go through each of them. I'll zoom in a little bit there. For those that are watching, and we'll read some of them out. So from a goalkeeper perspective, interesting that Leno and Pope are the highly picked, goalkeepers. So at 30% and 24%. So Leno at the top there with 30%. Sanchez in third there with 10.6% there. So I am a little bit surprised by that actually. So Leno being the most popular sort of pick, and yeah, I am a little bit tempted there as well. So Kepa down at 5.3%. So it could be a nice sort of differential to go Kepa.
I mean, so many FPL players are Manchester United fans, so they don't want to back against their team.
That's it. Probably, yeah, most likely. So yeah, interesting from the goalkeeper perspective there. Next up from a defenders, so the most highly owned player, which I'm not surprised about given what we were just looking at with the nailed on pick.
93%. That's crazy.
93% with Aït-Nouri there, and then you've got 55.8% on Sessegnon. So whilst I'm like maybe drafting him and putting him on my bench at the moment, just because I think maybe there could be a goal there for Southampton. So yeah, really interesting, very high. Trippier, we've just been like slagging Trippier, and I heard you and Bucks, like slagging off Trippier there a little bit on the Press Play podcast as well. But Trippier up there at 40.7% as well. So that's very high. Trent, I think, believers like you, like me, who think that maybe Trent's going to start as well, like almost 30% there. Cucurella, 27%. And then you've got, Livramento sort of, 15% onwards there. But any surprises there, like with what you're seeing, like especially from a defense, like if we just look at the goalkeepers and defenders there, what do you reckon?
I mean, yeah, Trips at 40% is very high, I think. I mean, he's on some set pieces, but he just doesn't have the engine to run up and down and put in crosses and then bomb back. So I think that's also why we've seen him when he's playing right back. We've seen Murphy do so well because Murphy's the one up the pitch doing a lot of those crosses to Isak. And so I don't see the love for Trips, but you do, I guess. I do like having a balance of 2 attackers and 1 defender from Newcastle. So by default, a lot of people are going that way. I don't think he's been very good on bonus either this season. So again, like if Shar is healthy, I would go him all day, every day. It's not even close for me.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to go there with Shah as well. But yeah, really interesting that I guess because it's a free hit, people are thinking I'm not going to bring Trippier in otherwise, and so I'm just going to bring in Trippier now. Shah will probably be in many teams, non-free hit teams already. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's not very popular. I think most people have Dan Burn or Livramento because they're sub 4-5.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
those guys are much more popular from previous regimes and game weeks. But let's keep it moving. I mean, oh my goodness, this is when you have 2 people that love to talk FPL. We're going to be going long, people. So thank goodness for AI and timestamps.
Exactly. So look, midfield and forward spots as well. So no major surprises here. Like we got Salah there, 98%. And then you got Diaz up at 77%, Palmer
Wow.
69, Barnes 55, Murphy 44. Interesting. I wonder if like how many went with exactly that five combination, to play five up front and Isak and Cunha in the forward. So playing 3-5-2 maybe. I've not really done that many drafts with 3-5-2, but that's really interesting to see this data there. And then you got Mbumo, Cliver, Iwobi a lot further down, but Mbumo being 26.5% there, Cliver at 21.2% as well. So
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
shame that Clivert isn't firing like he was 5 game weeks ago, because if he was healthy and in his purple patch, you would see him to be very popular. Obviously, Penn Merchant is really converted well from the spot this season, playing a
yeah,
downtrodden team at Manchester United. But yeah, the fact that he's still coming back from his injury, not quite in as good a form, and just the team overall puts me off a bit. But if you're going to go for 7 pen takers on free hit, I don't blame you at all. You can get very lucky and get double pens, and all of a sudden you're looking at 15 pointer. So
yeah,
um, those who go for the pen takers on free hit, it's a viable strategy, and that's why like puts me off a little bit on going for a forward like Evan Nilsson who's not going to be on pens, where you could go for Wood or Raul or Welbeck, who we all think and believe are on penalties, and
yeah,
just that slight variance for getting a handball or somebody doing some dumb shit like pulling down a defender in the or attacker in the box, and you just all of a sudden get a guaranteed 9 pointer.
yeah,
Yeah, that the bonus is just too OP. It's way too overpowered for forwards this year. They need to tweak that. It's like the fact that Mateta got the maximum bonus for being on the pitch for 20 minutes was
yeah,
like pretty insane in the Arsenal match. And so he just catapults, even though he's barely played for any of the game, just because of a mistake from Saliba and Raya. So anyway, but having the 3-4-3, you could get goals across your front line and be on 8 or 9 points for each of those players, and that makes it more viable than maybe going for a different lineup
yeah,
structure.
yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting, honestly. Like, I would love to, like, Mbumo, for instance, and Clivert. There was a message from Owamara in the chat who said, "I have Evan Nilsson. He would score. Not gonna lie, I'm a United fan, and we'll have a look at like a bit more in the forward picks there. At least that third sort of forward option. And at the moment, Evan Nilsson being sort of that 4.4 percentage there in terms of picked or submitted anyway through this data that has been shared by Solio. I'm sure I'll get that name right, at some point. But
Yeah, keep an eye on these guys. There's going to be a lot of
yeah,
tools and
I'm excited.
exciting FPL content coming out from them for the season ahead. So lots of brilliant minds coming together there and making it more digestible for kind of anal grass managers like ourselves.
Absolutely. So yeah, should we really be considering a few more Bournemouth picks? And I guess Eva Nilsson maybe is that third spot that where we would go, just because there's so many options available in the mid, right? Like that are probably better than going with Clivert maybe or Semenyo maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the biggest differentials this game week are going to be Bournemouth assets and Brighton assets. If those teams pop off and score 3+ goals and you have a big share of that attack, I think that's where, and then other popular players blank. If I was chasing, I would be strongly considering those two teams.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely seeing swings here, like the Barnes Murphy swings. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And yeah, I'm surprised like so many are going for Diaz there. I'm slightly tempted to go Jota, but that could be a benching sort of nightmare
Pain.
as
That's
well.
that's going to
Yeah,
be painful. I mean,
yeah.
just the fact that Diaz can play through the middle or play on the left, and he's created, I think, 6 or 7 big
Diaz,
chances over the last 6 games. I
Diaz
think he's
through the
just
middle. Not sure. Like I have a funny suspicion Diaz will play through the middle, and then we'll have Gakpo on the left.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think when Trent plays, Diaz is better off the left, just getting on the end of some of his crosses and really sprinting up and being on the other side of that. So I would prefer that it'd be fine if he plays on the left for me, but I just think when you're looking at their best starting
Oh yeah,
11 at
yeah.
this point in the
Be
season, I think
Diaz, yeah,
Diaz is part of that.
and
So
Jota up front,
that's why he's
yeah.
so highly owned here.
Yeah, yeah, agree, agree. All right, so going back over here, I think having a look at all of that, and if you have a tiny bit more time before we do a bit of a Q&A, and, I've got some rapid questions to ask you as well.
Let's do it.
If we had to draft up
Thank
without
goodness
any...
YouTube has plenty of time to upload extra minutes of
I know,
FPL talk.
love it, love it. So if you were picking now, where would you go with your... Let's get some of the obvious picks in, right? So we've got Salah over here. They're probably going to be in. So Isak obviously is a pick that we'll each have, and then we've got Cunha. Are we thinking 3 up front?
Look at you. You have your little sticky notes here. I can
I
see you in the
know.
background on
Yeah.
your thought board over there for your clients. Very impressive. Very well organized.
We got 8 Nori over here. Who else are we thinking? We're thinking Diaz, probably nailed in. I think
Yep.
maybe for me as well, at the moment. And then we've got, okay, are we thinking 3-4-3 then?
I think it's
Maybe.
got to be.
Yeah. All right. All right, let's fill in the rest. What's the gut saying now after all that chat, going through some of those picks that others have made, and the
I'm gonna
data,
put
and
yeah, I'm gonna still put Palmer in
yeah.
my midfield.
Okay.
I'll let you make the tough decision on who else goes up front because I
Yeah.
think that third striker slot we could see a lot of variance and although multiple players might come in with some points, can you spike that goal and assist or that double return type of performance in that third slot?
Yeah. Share. Are we thinking share here? What's the gut saying?
For me, I'm riding Trent and
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
I we'll see at pressers, but if
Yeah.
he's fully fit for a start and there's that projection, I think he's just the player that's going to be crossing the ball, wanting to. I mean, he's slaughtered Spurs in the past. I
Yeah.
think he's going to be up for it in front of the home crowd. So I think he gets the start. So I'm going Trent.
Okay. So okay, Newcastle defense. Newcastle defense. Are you leaning towards Pope because you had Pope in your original draft? Or are you
It's a
thinking
bit
Fabian
boring. Like
Schär?
I don't think he's going to have a. I think he's going to be like a 2 or a 6. Like I don't think Ipswich is going to go to St. James and be able to put on a ton of shots
Yeah.
and force him into some save points plus bonus. I just see this match being 4-0 one way or the other. So
Yeah.
they really have great clean sheet odds. So I'll go Pope in goal.
Okay. Let's do that. So still sticking with the original draft that you've got there to some extent anyway. All right, 3 more picks to go roughly. Like we won't sort of we won't go through the bench just because you can just
Yeah.
these guys
I mean,
are mostly
where are you at
nailed.
with Cess? Is Cess a player that you
I
want
like
to risk
him.
that upside of scoring a goal? Like he's playing advanced. They're going to play Southampton. You could see a spot where
It's the
Fulham
attacking.
press.
Yeah.
Southampton can't do anything, and then
Yeah.
gets a very cheeky assist or goal out of nothing, and because of the press and the fact that Southampton can't break it down. So,
Well,
even if he plays sub 60, there the attacking threat is there. It's just does he get to 60? I'm gonna be so frustrated if he plays 54 minutes.
let's have a think about really quickly some of the other teams and what they're playing for as well. So Fulham, Bournemouth, who else? So Fulham, Bournemouth probably have something to play for still in terms of getting a European spot. I think they will, right? They'll go for it. Fulham will have to go for it. So yeah, there could be some attacking returns there. I think this is where Raul, I can see why managers are going there, and Cess, why they're going there as well. He's playing completely out of position at the moment, huge potential. But you've now got me feeling a bit tentative about it, just from a Harry Wilson, coming back as well. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I'm
I'm not
no Fulham
sure.
expert, but I think they fumbled versus Chelsea. They should have won that match. Does the manager go
Yeah,
for a overreaction?
and it could be a
I
bit of
feel
a
like Marco
bogey.
Silva. I mean, I feel like he likes to play a pretty settled lineup other than rotating his strikers in quite a
Mm,
bit, but they've had a lot of injuries throughout the season that has forced them to play
yeah,
players, in alternating slots in game weeks. So
yeah. I love to hear
I don't
from
have enough of a call on
Yeah,
Fulham.
I love to hear from the chat. In terms of, I know Cole might still be in chat. I'm not sure. It's quite late in the UK. But any sort of Fulham supporters in the chat or gut feel, are you going with Cess or not? What's the alternative there? Interesting that you're not going with Cucurella.
Oh, just Chelsea. They've been so painful to watch since kind of the holidays.
Yeah.
I do think that they've been more sound defensively because they've had to be since they're not
Mm,
scoring many goals. But um, I mean, Everton, what's up with Dwight McNeil? Is he going to be back on the side? He's kind of threatening, but
yeah.
Beto and Broya, oh my goodness, get out of my
Yeah.
face with
So we're not.
these bad strikers on Everton. So I think he's a good pick. He's a pick that he goes inside the box quite a bit.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, he could be a good 15-point upside pick. We've seen him do it a couple times in the last month, so I think that's why he's in really
yeah.
strong contention for my team.
Yeah, fair. Okay. Look, there's three more spots there. What comes to mind from a gut feel? So each spot
I mean,
actually
this
is
looks too
missing.
much like
No,
my
no.
team, so
Like so,
I've been doing a bad time,
I'll look.
being
I'll
biased.
I'll go here. So I think I'm curious about, like I mentioned earlier, the Brentford versus Forest fixture. And Wood has been on form. So my gut says to go with Wood and probably be a differential because he won't be in many non-free hit drafts as well at the moment. But I don't think I'm going to end up on Welbeck. Welbeck was very high on the goal scorer, the chart that we looked at. But yeah, I have a feeling maybe Wood might be the pick. Brentford are leaky and they're playing away, to a home Forest. So yeah, that's where I'm thinking at the moment. Wood, and it is probably looking a little bit more like your your current team draft that you've created. But the only other pick that I would be tempted by up front is probably Eva Nilsson against United, but very low on the pick there as well. So I'm thinking about pen takers as well in the equation. So maybe going with Wood or Welbeck would be the ideal picks, not even Nilsson.
I rate it. All right, let's put in Shar. I really think that maybe there's an
Double,
opportunity
double
to
defense.
go double Newcastle defense
Yeah,
and just swerve the expected minutes. It's just a variation of free hit, a
yeah,
little bit different from my current team that I have, my draft, but
yeah. You've got
you
Barnes
know,
in your draft,
then you're forced into a rogue midfielder pick here,
Yeah.
Meera.
Where
So what do you
where do you,
think?
where do you go? Yeah, I mean, I had who did I have? I had Bowen on the bench as an option as well. Like that could be interesting against Brighton. But I'm not sure West Ham haven't been scoring that many goals either. So
I mean,
yeah, maybe
his percentage involvement is very high this season. It's got to be close to 60%, you would think, of all actions for West Ham.
yeah.
But yeah, only scoring one or two
Yeah,
max.
absolutely. It's a tough one because I think this is where do you go for like a random pick in Clivert? Do you go for I don't know, do you go triple attack Liverpool and drop Trent and go Jota up there as well? Like do you just, go triple all the way, like Diaz, Salah and Jota or something like that. I don't know. It's a really hard one, this one, and I think it's just going to be a bit of a curveball for most managers who are, thinking, who are not thinking double. Sorry, who are also thinking double Newcastle defense at the moment. So it could be an Iwobi. If we're not going for any Fulham attack, do you go for an Iwobi? What are the other options in the mid there? Not many. He's probably been the only inform, mid. Yeah, it's a tough one. Like, where else do you go? Mbumo?
Yeah, I think you know, Brighton, Matoma,
Mitoma?
but I would probably rate going with somebody like Welbeck over Matoma if you were to go for a Brighton
Agree.
asset. But again, I think that that's gonna be a big differential spot this game week. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
So
tricky. I
it's
really
a
do not
mystery
rate
spot.
going. I don't rate going for triple attack just because like the way that bonus is spread out. I think I just rather have two cracks at maximum bonus, and then if the game plays out the opposite way, you at least have a defender that maybe has attacking threats and then can get you that max bonus.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of analytical ways to look at that, but yeah, I would not be going with triple attack on kind of any free hit.
I think that is your
Now,
punt. That's
this
your
is
punt pick.
yeah, yeah. Let's put Matoma in there and then keep it moving.
Yeah. Good shout.
Sure.
Um, no, I don't mind that. I don't mind that, but not super keen there just because of Mitoma's form in general as well. But look, we're hitting almost 2 hours. I've got like one more final sort of segment to do with you, Brian.
Let's do it.
But a massive shout out to those that have tuned in for almost 2 hours. So thank you so much for tuning in. You know, Off the Cuff is very, very
Yeah,
rambly.
thanks
It
for
is very
hanging.
much off the cuff, and it's been brilliant to have a wonderful guest like Brian on the show. This time I'm making it a full house with getting my favorite podcast, FPL USA Press Play podcast hosts on my show. So yeah, very
Yeah.
much
And
appreciated,
in the
Brian.
past, you have admitted that I'm your favorite between Bucks,
This is true.
Black
You
Wolf,
came
and
to Australia
myself.
to see me.
I know. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I love that. I
We're
love
always
that.
having breakfast together, you know. That's our thing.
That's our thing. That is definitely our thing. So look,
Breakfast in person, 8 a.m. launch party today.
I love it. I love it. So what I've done, so this is something slightly new for anyone tuning in, more than once anyway. This is slightly new. I have decided to create a completely different sort of segment here. I'm going to
Wow.
put a timer on, and I'm not sure if 45 seconds is going to be enough, especially if there's a bit of lagginess going on in the in
No,
the
we're smooth now. We're
I think it
smooth
seems
now.
to be smooth. Yeah, yeah. So you can
Yeah,
see
it was the
you can
first
see
like 15 minutes I was just like, oh, I better ramble and then completely stop. But
yeah, you
we can
can
do this. We've gone long enough, so maybe I can really fire
I
it off.
will I will put a timer on here for 45 seconds. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but I've just got some random questions, and I've got 11 questions. It's about 45 seconds stoppage time, rapid fire round, and I just want you to tell me, just kind of shout the first thing that comes to your mind, right? So we'll try for 45 seconds and we'll see how it goes. You can pass as well. So feel free to, hit pass and we'll come back to it or something, or
Is this gonna be pass fail or am I
well,
gonna
I don't
be
know.
striving to get an A?
It's not that scientific, so it'll be all right. All right, let's do this. Okay, wildcard or free hit?
This game week free hit.
You just got to pick. You got to pick fast. You need to go fast, right? Double game week. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
First player on your FPL team every year.
Salah.
Most frustrating player this season.
Bruno.
Your team's all-time troll.
Trolls. There's too many. Dean.
Chase team value or ignore price changes.
Ignore price changes. Always an
fo-
alternative.
Which footballer would you trust with your FPL login?
Wow. Who's responsible? That's a great question. We'll go with Cole Palmer because I think he would
Okay.
log in once and then
We've got 45
he
seconds that
loves
have just gone
football.
up.
What did we get through, seven?
Quick answers, Brian. We got through 7, but I will ask you the other ones. Team you'd never support.
Brighton. I hate Brighton.
All right, VAR, keep or bin.
Ben.
Early transfers or last minute panic.
Neither.
Okay, what's the weirdest place you've made a FPL transfer from?
Ugh. A funeral.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ooh,
it was a long
okay.
one for a friend of a friend, but I was stuck.
I was
I had to
not
make my
expecting
moves.
that. Yeah, I was really
Yeah.
hoping you weren't going to say toilet as well, but oh, that was brilliant. Brian, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. Thank you so much for giving me 2 hours of your afternoon, and it's been, one of the best 2 hours of my Friday morning as well. So, really, really do appreciate you coming on the show for as long as you did as well. There was some really good conversation there, like we just touched on so much, especially with our free hit drafts, and it's been wonderful hearing about you as a person and just your FPL journey as well, and some of the good seasons that you've had as well, and just your style of play. It's been really nice listening to all of that and getting to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks.
Um, yeah, any plugins, shout outs that you would like to give?
Yeah. I would say for all the FPL managers out there, if it's not your season, there's always next season, and that's something that I really took to heart after having just miserable season last year. And no matter how long you play this game, there's always crazy variance, and I'm on the exact other side of it this year and trying to finish with a triple digit rank, which would be just absolutely the pinnacle for my career thus far. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Meera. It's been great having met you in person. You're equally lovely virtually. So I'm glad that we can make this work. And you've built a really great community around your FPL AUS, and we're gonna scramble those letters and shout out our FPL USA community here. And great to see lots of folks engaging with each other and just building each other up to try and get those green arrows. So yeah, make sure you follow and subscribe to Meera. She's great. And I would say if you would like to follow me at FPL USA Brian, and then at FPL USA Press Play is our podcast. So continually to try and grow that, mostly podcast, but hopefully next year we'll have more video content. Depends how Bucks and Bucks is also due with his third child in next
Oof,
month, so it's going to be we
gosh, it's
might
all
have a
happening.
few guests. Yeah, it's all happening at the same time. So hoping to finish the season out strong. And yeah, thanks again for having me on.
Thank you so much, Brian. And we did have a couple of questions, but what we might do is just take them in the comments. So please do leave a comment. I always
Yeah, I'll
respond.
bounce on those too.
And Brian, you've been tagged in this stream as well, so hopefully you'll get the notification for any questions that come through. And feel free to send us questions on the socials as well. So yeah, we'll be active on there over the next couple of days, just trying to work out our free hit drafts still. But Brian, thank you.
So much to come.
Yeah,
Who knows?
absolutely.
Who knows who falls down the stairs on their
Well,
kid's toy truck, and then all of a sudden you got a mystery substitute coming in. So
yeah, I'm really hoping we'll learn a little bit more from the presses as well. So yeah, let's see how that goes. But yeah, good luck to you guys if you're, on free hit as well.
yeah,
Hopefully the stream helped, with the picks. I think a template is sort of forming at the moment, and I think it's really going to come down to 3 or 4 picks. It seems like that we're
yeah,
probably
for
going to
sure.
be a little bit different on. So thank you so much for everyone tuning in again. Hit like, hit subscribe, go and follow Brian, and thank you once again for joining me on my off the cuff show. Take it easy. Ciao for now.
Thanks, Mira.